All right, strap in, everyone. Today we're going deep on the Battle of Yarmouk, a real turning point in history, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's one of those events that really shifted things.
Now, you brought this incredible lecture by Dr. Tariq Al-Swaydan.
Yeah, he really brings it to life, all the drama and strategy.
So let's unpack it, shall we? The battle's flow, the big players, all that good stuff. 636 CE, that's when this all went down, right?
Right. And the location, so important, the Yarmouk River.
Okay, Yarmouk River, I'm picturing it. Now, give us the rundown. Who are the main players in this epic clash?
We've got the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, as some folks call it, a real powerhouse at the time. And they came heavy, 200,000 soldiers strong.
200,000? Wow, okay, that's a serious force. And who are they facing?
The Rashidun Caliphate, the early Islamic state. But here's the kicker. They only had 40,000 soldiers. Talk about outnumbered.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. So how did they even stand a chance? I mean, I get bravery and all, but was there something more at play here?
Bravery, for sure. But let's not forget strategy. Their secret weapon, Khalid ibn al-Walid.
Ah, Khalid ibn al-Walid, the sword of Allah. That nickname alone tells you he wasn't messing around. So what made him such a brilliant strategist?
Well, he was adaptable, like you wouldn't believe. Changed his plans on the fly, kept his enemies guessing.
Okay, so unpredictable, like a chameleon on the battlefield, blending in, changing tactics.
Exactly, but he was also patient. Waited for the perfect moment to strike. And, oh boy, was he good at finding weaknesses in the enemy lines.
So he was a battlefield chess master, always thinking several moves ahead of his opponent.
Spot on. And this all comes into play during the actual battle. 6 days, brutal fighting, swings back and forth. It was intense.
6 days. Just imagine the tension, the exhaustion, the sheer scale of it all.
You can practically feel the heat and the dust, the clash of swords and shields, and both sides incredibly resilient, neither one backing down. It was anyone's game for a while there.
I can only imagine. Now, were there any particular days that stand out in this epic struggle?
Absolutely. Day 4, for example. It became known as the Day of Eyes. Can you guess why?
Let me think. Day of Eyes. Was it something to do with vision?
You got it. The Byzantine archers, they were famous for their accuracy, and on that day they focused on targeting the eyes of the Muslim soldiers.
Oh, wow, that's brutal. The psychological impact alone must have been devastating, not to mention the physical pain.
You can't even imagine. It was a true testament to their resilience, their unwavering faith that they kept fighting through that. And then comes day 6, things really start to heat up.
Okay, day 6, lay it on me. What happened?
Khalid ibn al-Walid, he pulls out all the stops, consolidates his entire cavalry force, 8,000 horsemen. Imagine the thunder of those hooves.
Wow, that's a massive force, a wall of horses and steel.
And to add to the drama, the Byzantine general, Gregory, he throws down a challenge. Single combat. Any Muslim leader brave enough to face him.
Oh, a duel. It's like something straight out of a movie. So, did anyone take him up on that?
Abu Ubaidah, the overall Muslim commander, he steps up. And the duel, intense, doesn't even begin to describe it. But in the end, Abu Ubaidah wins, kills Gregory.
Wow, what a blow to the Byzantine morale to lose their general like that.
Exactly. And Khalid ibn al-Walid, he sees his opportunity. The Byzantine forces, they're reeling, and he unleashes his cavalry. 8,000 horsemen charging, breaking through their line.
That must have been an incredible sight, like a wave crashing upon the shore, unstoppable.
The Byzantines, they start to flee, heading toward this narrow gorge, hoping to escape.
Okay, a narrow gorge. I feel like this is where the trap is sprung, right?
You're catching on. Now, earlier in the battle, Khalid ibn al-Walid, he did something pretty sneaky.
Oh, I love a good sneak attack. What did he do?
He sent a small force, led by Durar ibn al-Azwar, to block that very gorge.
Ah, classic pincer move. So the Byzantines are running right into a trap, caught between the main Muslim army and this impassable gorge. What a move. Talk about strategic brilliance.
It was a game changer, that's for sure.
So the Byzantines, they're trapped, no way out. What happens next? How does this epic battle finally end?
Well, let's just say it doesn't end well for the Byzantines. The Rashidun Caliphate wins a decisive victory. We're talking a crushing defeat for the Byzantines.
Okay, decisive victory. Give us the numbers. How bad are we talking here?
Casualties for the Byzantines, somewhere between 70,000 and 120,000 soldiers.
Whoa, that's a staggering number. Hard to even wrap your head around it.
Even the most conservative estimates, it's still a massive loss.
And for the Rashidun Caliphate, how many did they lose?
Around 4,000. Still a significant loss, of course. But compared to the Byzantines, it shows you just how effective Khalid ibn al-Walid's leadership really was.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, you mentioned earlier that this battle was a real turning point in history. So what were the long-term consequences, especially for the Rashidun Caliphate?
It was pivotal. This victory, it really sets the stage for the Muslim conquest of the Levant.
The Levant. Remind us again what that includes.
Think modern-day Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, huge area. And Yarmouk, it was a major power shift. Byzantine Empire weakens, the caliphate grows stronger, and the spread of Islam throughout the region, well, it gains serious momentum.
Right, so it's not just about this one battle, it's about the ripple effect, the changes it set in motion.
Absolutely. But something else really struck me in Dr. Al-Suwaidan's lecture, and it's something we don't often hear about the role of women in this battle.
Yeah, that was fascinating. It's not something that's typically highlighted in history books.
No, it isn't, but their contributions were crucial, both on and off the battlefield.
So what kinds of roles did they play? I'm really curious to learn more about this.
They were doing it all, providing logistical support, tending to the wounded, keeping things running smoothly back at the camp.
Right, the unsung heroes keeping everything together.
But it goes even further. Some women even took up arms, fought alongside the men. Incredible bravery.
Wow, really? So they were right there on the front lines fighting for their community.
Absolutely. Their courage, their skill, it's documented. They challenged traditional expectations.
I love that. They weren't just supporting, they were active participants. It's so important to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Are there any specific examples, women we know by name, who made a difference?
Definitely. One of the most famous, Khawla bint al-Azwar, a fierce warrior. She was wounded in battle, but she talked about the immense joy and pride she felt fighting for her people.
That's amazing. It gives you a whole new perspective on the Battle of Yarmouk, doesn't it?
Mm.
It wasn't just about military strategy. It was about a whole community coming together, men and women fighting side by side.
Exactly. It challenges the narrative we often hear about women's roles in early Islamic history.
Right. It's a much more nuanced and complex picture.
Now, circling back to Khalid ibn al-Walid for a moment, this sword of Allah, his tactical genius is a huge part of why the Rashidun Caliphate won.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about his adaptability, his patience, but there's something else I wanted to touch on: his background.
Ah, yes. His journey to Islam is pretty remarkable. He wasn't always on the side of the Muslims,
Wait, really? He actually started out fighting against them?
He did. Before converting to Islam, he was actually one of the Prophet Muhammad's most staunch opponents.
So he had a complete change of heart. That's fascinating. What prompted that shift?
Well, historical accounts suggest he was deeply impressed by the Prophet Muhammad, not just his military skills, but his character, courage, wisdom, compassion.
So it wasn't just strategy or politics. There was a genuine admiration there, a connection that drew him to Islam.
It seems that way. He also saw the unity, the faith of the early Muslim community. It clearly made a big impact.
He saw something special, something worth fighting for, and decided to switch sides.
Exactly. And that decision, well, it changed the course of history. His skills, his strategies, they became instrumental in the expansion of the Islamic Empire.
It's amazing how life can take these unexpected turns, isn't it? One minute you're fighting against a group, the next you're leading them to victory. It really makes you think.
It does. And his story, it reminds us that the early Muslim community wasn't some monolithic entity. It was diverse, full of individuals with their own unique paths to Islam.
Right, different backgrounds, different motivations, all coming together. And Khalid ibn al-Walid is a prime example of that. But let's not lose sight of the bigger picture here, the Battle of Yarmouk itself and its impact on the world stage.
Absolutely. We've touched on it, but it really did mark a major shift in power. The Byzantine Empire weakened, and the Rashidun Caliphate emerges as a new force to be reckoned with.
Like a changing of the guard, the old order giving way to the new.
And the spread of Islam. Well, the conquest of the Levant, it gave Islam a foothold in a region that had been a center of Christianity for centuries.
So Yarmouk, it wasn't just a military victory, it was a cultural and religious turning point as well.
Exactly. It set the stage for a new world order, one where Islam played an increasingly important role. And the effects of that shift, they're still felt today.
It's incredible to think that a battle fought over 1,400 years ago could still have such a lasting impact on our world.
But as we dig deeper into the significance of Yarmouk, let's not forget about the human element. The individual stories, they're what bring this event to life.
Right, the stories of everyday people, the soldiers, the women, the families impacted by this conflict. Their experiences are what make history relatable.
We've talked about Khala bint al-Azwar, but there are countless others. Stories of courage, sacrifice, resilience. These are the stories that make history so compelling.
And I'm especially interested in those stories of the women warriors. Were their actions viewed as unusual at the time? Did their presence cause any controversy?
It's a complex issue. Social norms back then generally discouraged women from fighting, but, there was a precedent for women warriors in pre-Islamic Arabia.
So it wasn't entirely unheard of for women to be on the battlefield? Still, I imagine their presence at Yarmouk must have had a pretty significant impact, both on morale and on the outcome of the battle.
No doubt about it. Their courage, their determination, it would have inspired those around them. Their contributions, both in combat and behind the lines, they were critical.
Yeah. They challenge our modern assumptions about gender roles and highlight the fact that women have always been active participants in history, even if their stories haven't always been told.
Absolutely. They were shaping the world right alongside the men.
So we've talked a lot about Khalid ibn al-Walid, the sword of Allah, his incredible military mind. But let's delve a bit deeper into what made him such an exceptional leader. What were some of his key strengths, the strategies that led him to victory at Yarmouk? We touched on his adaptability, his patience, but what about specific tactics? What did he do at Yarmouk that really made a difference?
Well, his decision to consolidate the cavalry, that was huge.
Right, bringing all those horsemen together, 8,000 strong.
It created this incredibly powerful striking force, highly mobile, too.
Yeah, I bet that was terrifying to see coming at you, like a historical tank battalion or something.
That's a great way to put it. It allowed him to exploit weaknesses in the Byzantine lines, deliver those decisive blows when it mattered most. Plus, he used the terrain, masterfully, luring the Byzantine army toward that gorge.
Setting them up for Dir ibn al-Azwar and his forces.
Exactly. A classic pincer movement. You see that tactic used throughout history. And then there's the element of surprise. I mean, the Byzantines had no idea what was waiting for them.
Totally disrupted their escape plan. Yeah. So we've got adaptability, the use of terrain, surprise tactics. He was like a master strategist with all these tools at his disposal.
He really was.